All right, let's talk about innovation. When you hear that word, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's this picture of a sudden stroke of genius, a flash of lightning that changes everything. But today, we're going to pull back that curtain, move past the romance, and get real about how innovation actually works.
Right? It's that classic eureka moment. The lone inventor tinkering away, and then bam, a world-changing idea just appears out of nowhere. I mean, it's a great story, it makes for an awesome movie, but it's mostly a myth. And that myth is kind of a problem because it completely hides what's really going on behind the scenes.
So let's just lay it all out. The myth tells us it's all about a lone genius having a sudden breakthrough with one single brilliant idea. The reality, though, it couldn't be more different. Innovation is almost always just plain hard work. It's a grind. It's about testing things, seeing them fail, adjusting, and trying again, all within an organized system.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. You can't just throw a giant pile of cash at a problem and expect a brilliant innovation to pop out the other side. Studies have shown that having a bigger R&D budget doesn't guarantee success. The key thing to remember is this. Innovation is always going to be uncertain, but you can seriously boost your odds of success by having a smarter process.
Okay, so if it's not a magic trick, and it's not just about money, then what is it? What's the actual recipe here? What are the key ingredients you need to make an innovation project work? Let's break it down.
It really all comes down to these 4 big factors. Think of them like the 4 legs of a table. If any one of them is weak, the whole thing comes crashing down. You need the right product, the right organization supporting it, the right process to build it, and the right understanding of the market. They're all equally important.
So what do these actually mean? Well, for the product, it's not enough for it to just be new. It has to be noticeably better than what's already out there. For the organization, you need real buy-in from the top, with actual time and money dedicated to the project. The process needs to have a clear structure, with actual moments where you decide, do we keep going or do we pull the plug? And finally, the market. You've got to know who you're selling to, and just as important, is now the right time.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second, because a fantastic project can still totally fail if it's born into the wrong environment. So what makes an entire organization truly innovative?
You can have the most amazing idea and a rock-star team, but if the company culture around them is all about avoiding risk and punishing failure, they are going to hit a brick wall. A supportive environment isn't just a nice-to-have. It's absolutely essential if you want innovation to happen more than once.
And here are the 5 building blocks for that environment. It all starts from the top, with a clear strategy and leaders who actually champion new ideas. Then you need a culture where people feel safe enough to try things and maybe even fail. You need a real innovation policy, not just talk, but actual goals and resources. And finally, the very structure of the company has to encourage people to work together and share ideas.
Now this is a really big idea. Every organization is basically trying to do 2 things at the same time. On one hand, you have to exploit. That means making your current business better, more efficient, cheaper. But at the exact same time, you have to explore. You have to search for what's next, take some risks, and discover brand new things. The tricky part, most companies are way better at the first thing than the second.
And there's a great word for being good at both, ambidexterity. It's like being able to write perfectly with both your right and left hands. An ambidextrous company can run its day-to-day business flawlessly while also inventing its future. Honestly, this is the holy grail for any company that wants to stick around for the long haul.
Okay, so we've looked at the big picture, the kind of environment you need. Now let's zoom right back in and get practical. How does one little idea actually make the journey from a thought bubble to a real thing out in the market? Generally, it follows this 4-step path. It all starts with generating a whole bunch of ideas. Then comes the hard part, selecting the very best ones to actually invest in. After that, you've got development, which is when you actually build the thing. And finally, diffusion, which is all about getting it out there into the world. Now that very first stage, idea generation, has this fantastic name, the fuzzy front end. And it's called that for a reason. It's messy, it's chaotic, things are still super vague. But, and this is so important, the choices you make here in this fuzzy, messy stage have a huge impact on everything that follows. Getting this part right is absolutely crucial. So that leads us to a massive challenge. You've got this pile of ideas from the fuzzy front end. So how on earth do you decide which ones are worth your time, your money, your effort? It can't just be a gut feeling, right?
Well, the selection process really happens on two different levels. First, you have to look at the idea itself. Zoom in. Is it even possible to build? Does it solve a real problem for someone? But then you have to zoom back out and look at the portfolio level. How does this one project fit in with everything else we're doing? Are we balancing our safe bets with our risky moonshots?
Okay, so an idea made it through the fuzzy front end, it survived the tough selection process, and it's got the green light. Awesome. Now the real work starts. How do we bring this thing to life?
A really classic way to manage this is with something called the stage gate model. Basically, you chop up the development process into clear stages. And at the end of each stage, there's a gate, a formal review where you make a very deliberate go or no-go decision. This forces everyone to be disciplined and stops you from pouring good money into a project that's just not working out.
But development is rarely a perfectly straight line. So to go along with that structured approach, a lot of teams use the idea of a minimum viable product, or MVP. Instead of spending a year building the perfect, feature-packed product, you build the absolute simplest version you can that still provides some value. The goal isn't to make $1 million with it. The goal is to learn, as fast and as cheaply as you can, what your customers actually care about.
So, there you have it. We've gone from the myth of the lone genius all the way down to the nuts and bolts of MVPs and stage gates. Let's wrap it all up. If you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. Innovation is not a lottery ticket. You don't just buy one and hope you get lucky. It's a disciplined, manageable process. It's all about systematically taking something that's uncertain and turning it into something of real value.
So, to recap the big points. First, ditch that romantic myth of the lone genius. Real success comes from a solid process and a supportive culture. Second, remember to balance those two acts, running today's business while you're inventing tomorrow's. And finally, the day-to-day mantra should be learn by doing. Build things, test them, get feedback, and do it all over again.
And I'll just leave you with this one last question to chew on. Take a really honest look at your own company or your own team. Are all of your systems, your culture, your rewards, are they all designed just to make the current machine run a little bit better? Or are they actually built to discover what the next machine should be? Because being built to improve is not the same thing as being built to innovate. Definitely something to think about.